Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast with your host, Jason Irving. Join me in a journey to understand what's truly happening in your world and the world around you. This is not about how you're living life on the surface. It's about what's truly driving you from under the covers. I'm going to take you on a journey to deeply uncover the reason why you are here, the ultimate purpose in your problems and the way that they have shaped your life up until now. See, I believe you have a purpose, and your problems are the highway towards ultimate realization of that journey towards freedom and the reconnection of your true self. I've been told I have a different spin on most things, and I'll be giving you my understanding of life, love, and what we're all here for, purpose. To get the best out of this podcast, drop what you already know so you can discover what's beyond you. So join me, let's play this game of life and bring on liberation, transformation, and change. Let's do this.
Hi Jason, how are you today?
I'm very well, and how are you, Filia? Welcome to Uncovered, guys.
I'm good too, thank you.
Well, we have Rocky here. I'll just lift him up for the camera. There he is. He's just hanging out. He quite often has a day or two with us, and he gets very excited because he knows he's going to go for a walk on the oval every time he goes for a wander in the academy.
Mm-hmm. He's loving that.
Yeah, he loves it. So, guys, we're going to talk about something really, really important. Last time we talked about, what was our catch cry?
Less prep, more you.
Less prep, more you. And now we're going to go the opposite way, and I'm going to actually interview you, Filia, about more prep and professional.
Mm-hmm.
So, just after I did this less prep, more you, I had a meltdown. Didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I got to get these slides done and they need to look good, and I got overwhelmed, didn't I?
Yeah.
And you're really, really good at prep and getting things done, and where we work really well together is I'm really a little bit chaotic, aren't I?
Yeah.
And you're really good prep. And so when you blend the two, you have magic.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have one without the other, it can be a little bit chaotic. Sometimes I don't know what I have done without you, to be honest, like working on my own, trying to get all this stuff done, and you saw how much I had to do.
Yep, I can attest to that.
and now you do such an amazing job with getting things done, making everything better. And I've had all of these comments about you. And the comments were, Filia, it's so good having you in the academy, doing all the stuff. Everything's so organised. And yeah, it's fantastic. So tell us from your perspective, like you have this amazing capability of, I've got this, here's the idea. And then I show you the idea, and then you do something amazing with it. You just make everything better. And you have the fear of just showing up like we do with the podcast. We don't prepare, by the way, at all.
Yeah. Even with this one, this is not prepared. We just talked about the topic.
We're just talking about the topic. So tell us about what it is to be prepared and what it is that you do that actually makes more magic happen.
I think what I do is I need to have a certain amount of structure in things, and that's why I prepare, because it just helps me understand things better. So when I always, as long as I can remember, like when I learned something, I would like structure the information in a certain way until it made sense to me and I could remember it. So I do that with all kinds of things, and it gives me a really deep sense of satisfaction. It's like, I know some people don't have that, but if I tidy up the pantry or something at home and it looks really good and it's really organized, and it makes logical sense to me. It's like the deeply satisfying feeling that I get. So with information, it's the same thing, really. I'm just like, how can we take all this chaos here and make it into more kind of logical and simplify it so that anyone can understand it and that it's easy enough to follow for people. And then obviously, you got to be careful with that one, that you don't go too much into that as well. Like you just said, you're a bit more chaotic. I'm the more structured approach, but you don't want to be overly structured, because then what I often do is go into that perfectionism, and then it's actually never done because it'll never be perfect. So you said something once I think it was like rough and ready rather than polished and perfect. And I was like, oh yeah, that's actually kind of good, and you can always improve it later. Yeah, so I think that's kind of what I do.
Well, that's right. And look, if this is where it really comes down to, listeners, is that if you had this problem, didn't you, when we were talking about some of the stuff when you were working with me and I was mentoring you through the academy work, is that you couldn't start something for a fear of it not being perfect, and you couldn't actually get over the line doing things, could you?
Yeah, and I'm still not, not over that as well. Like, I still have moments when that comes up. I only had that come up yesterday, and so it's just, it comes up in different kinds of ways. In some ways now I'm like, oh yeah, it's okay if it's not like 100% perfect straight away. And then in other areas where I'm still have that expectation, it might still come up. So then I need to kind of just like remind myself it's okay. Just take one step, and then you can always add to it later, or just start.
Yeah, and I think this is really, really important, that we need to have something where we are able to start the journey. And if we can start the journey, that's where the rough and ready comes in, and then there's this perfect and polished comes along afterwards. And I think if they go hand in hand, then it's like the opportunity becomes knocking to greatness. I think what's really, really important, guys, is if you think about the iPhone. I remember the first iPhone. I don't like iPhones, sorry, Mr. iPhone creator, but I'm not a big fan of iPhones. So I got an iPhone 4, I think, and I didn't like it because the battery went flat really, really quick. And 6 months I was just charging it. Half a day it needed to be recharged. So I got a Samsung. Yes, Samsungs. Nice. Love you, Samsung. I've got a Samsung, and I've stayed with it since. But if you think about the phones, how much they've improved from when I bought my first phone, which was more than just a screen with numbers on it. The improvement that has been made since then, and that's what it's all about, guys. Because I used to be an IT programmer, for people who don't know. Now, we had to get things rough and ready. Nothing was perfect under the hood. And this is why things were built so, and the systems were slow, because we were on a timeline which was way too difficult for us to achieve. So we had to get some stuff up rough and ready and get it built. And the thing, what I saw with projects, when we had a really good project manager who had systems in place to get us to build on top of something that was going to be good, then the rough and ready was built on a smoother system already. And that's what it's like. We need to have that, a little bit of prep at times, and then we've got to be able to get things moving very, very quickly, because if we want to implement fast, we can't have it ready. And that's what's really, really important. We're getting someone building an amazing system for our portal for the academy, and you have been amazing. Right, you've been providing all of these extra insights and what he can do, and you get excited about what the extra things, and then he puts them in, doesn't he?
Yeah, and it's like, that's something that I'm probably better at than actually starting things myself. I'm better taking something that's already there and then making it better from like that kind of that mindset, that organized type of structured perspective, and rather than being like building it all myself from scratch. But that's something that I need to learn as well, starting to build things from scratch.
Well, I don't necessarily believe that's the case. I think we can do a little bit of both. Like, if you've got a magic that says I can build something on top of something, that's great, because when I was an IT programmer, the reason why I was fast is I would look on the internet for a snippet of code, figure out what I need to do to change it, and threw it into what I needed to do in the business. And I would get stuff done about 2 weeks earlier than everybody else, because I never reinvented the wheel. So there's a really wise person actually looks for things.
Yeah, building it on templates, really. Yeah. But even that's hard for me if I go into that perfectionist mindset sometimes.
Yeah, it can. And look, I know I'm building something very, very unique. In the work that we do in the academy. It's also built off a very ancient system, as well. So it's built off an older system called the Kabbalah. So everything that I do has a routine and a focus to it. I'm just building my creativity all around it. And so the processes are really new, but how we've got to build them out, they're all, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6. There has to be a really nice process that people can follow to actually learn how to do it. And they're actually not complex, are they?
No. It's so easy. Sometimes too easy for people, It's like, this should be harder.
Yeah. And so that's where I think what we've got to learn to be able to do is create something with some really good professional nous to it. So, I've got this a slide deck template that we've got, and I got a little bit overwhelmed with the detail because the person who created it is a details person and I'm an abstract person, so I handed it to you.
For me that was perfect. It makes perfect sense. So yeah.
So when you're in this place for you, when you're building something and you're able to highlight things and make them better, I think, listeners, it's really important that if you're that person who likes to build something off something else, there's nothing wrong with feeling overwhelmed around the wanting to create it yourself. Don't. Just build off things. And then the idea, I guess, Filia, for you is you've learnt to get excited about your creation process.
Absolutely. And I think that's quite different as well now, like looking more at the process than at the end product. So, and that's in some areas that I still want to, work on that quite hard, but it's what I'm really enjoying here now is to actually go through that process and be like, oh, so this is where we started, and this is how I'm going along, and this is where the end result that we kind of got. So not just just focusing on the end result, because I think that's the thing that comes in with the perfectionism. I think so much about the end result and what I want it to look like that I'm just like, oh, this seems totally unachievable, so I won't even start. And then that whole procrastination and that sets in. Whereas if you just look at the process and you still have a goal, obviously, you can achieve so much more, and you will be like better prepared, and it'll be still professional even if it's not perfect straight away. Then you get people giving you feedback, you bounce it off someone else, and then you just make it better. Yeah,
and I think this is really, really important for us to understand, is that what you said there is essential, is that results-driven psyche never is happy. Right? Because once you complete, you get this little dopamine hit. At the end of the day, you're looking for something that's going to give you that dopamine hit at the end of the day. And what if like we talk about this all the time, there's this cliche of there's never an end to the journey. And so what I've said with everyone in the academy is look at your results as waypoints, not as endpoints.
Yeah, because there's always going to be like another mountain to climb afterwards. It's like, just because I don't know, if you want to have $1 million and this big house and whatever, then once you have that, it's not over. You'll still have other things that you want to do. Like, I want to have a $2 million house, and it's not like, now I'm there, now I can enjoy the rest of my life and never worry about anything.
That's right. I mean, Anya and I watched the new Wonder Woman movie on the weekend. It was talking about this guy who he got this crystal, citrine crystal, which was if he wished on it, he would get more. He would get everything. The deficit was it always came at a cost. So people who want more and more and more, there's a cost. And the cost is quite often mental health. The cost is quite often physical health. The cost is quite often emotional health. And the cost can quite often be family health, where we're spending so much time trying to conquer the mountain, we've forgotten who we're conquering it with. And I've heard so many people say, I'm just doing this for my family. But they've forgotten the family.
Yeah, they're never there. So their families, would be happier them actually doing less and being there.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really important, that we have to have a really good balance about our creation process, is that we've got to be prepared to have a right balance. And, you know, today it's Monday, 3 o'clock, I pick up the kids. Friday, 3 o'clock, I pick up the kids, and Liam's really excited because he's going to teach me how to play Fortnite this afternoon. And this is a big deal because he's really looking forward to slaughtering me, I think. And it's those moments where he's really looking forward to this afternoon. And because I've created something where I can actually afford to do that, to give the time to my son, which I didn't get a lot of time with my dad. He was, you know, that generation didn't really do time with their kids, especially the dads. They would work and then they just hang out and focused on tinkering in the shed. That's what my dad did. So when we have something that we do, when we're creating, we need to have a really good plan of making sure that we have a balance right as well. And I think you do that really well. Like, you're really good. You know, I send you stuff in the afternoon, and I know on Messenger, and I know that you're not going to actually look at it until the morning.
I have to. I had to be really harsh with that in the beginning with myself, just because I'm like, oh, hang on, let me just quickly look at that. And then I would just always bring it all home, and I'm like, no, I'll acknowledge it's there. I know that it's there, and then I'll just look at it once I'm back in the office.
Yeah,
so,
and I wouldn't give it, if you did do the nighttime stuff, if you started doing that and started getting stressed, I wouldn't send it to you. Because I think there's a really important process that we've got to learn to be able to do is a planned process for our week, a planned process for our life. And, you know, you've really struggled with this, haven't you? Like a long-term plan.
That's actually what I struggled with yesterday. That was the big thing. And what I was talking to my partner Cody then, and I was like, I don't know, how am I meant to know like what it's going to look like? And then he actually said something at the end, because I was trying to do a 5-year plan, and he said, oh, maybe just look at what you want in 20 years and then just plan 1 year ahead. That way you can always like still adjust it for the next year. And you know, if something changes, you don't have to rewrite the whole plan, you just have to maybe rewrite the 1 year. And I'm like, oh, okay, so I did like a 20-year plan, what I kind of want in 20 years, but I only plan until next year. And then, I don't know, maybe after 6 months I already kind of know what I want for afterwards, and then I'll write more. But for now, that was already a good step for me, even just having that. So yeah, it was really, really helpful. Yeah,
so it's really interesting how you and I are, isn't it? Like, I've got this, this big picture person that's I've got a long-term view of things, and people know that in the academy. I even look at, 650 years down the track. I've got a different look on everything. So mortality is not my issue here. I'm thinking about how what we do is the seeding ground for change for us when we pass over to hand our kids, which will eventually be us if you believe in incarnations. So I think where you and I come in really well together is that I've got a visionary plan, but it's not landed, and then you have a plan to get somewhere, but to get it right, we have to actually let go of the result again, isn't it? Because what if the plan doesn't work in the 5 years? That's where the head goes, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And then also, like, how am I meant to know all these steps to get there? And I needed to be like really proper things that I can do. Whereas, but what I did with the 20-year one, some things were proper, but and like actual kind of physical things, and some things were more abstract and kind of just feelings or sensations types of things. And then for the 1 year it was more like, how can I actually do these things, and what can I do on a daily or weekly basis to kind of get to those points. Yeah.
So look, I learnt from a mob of people who were helping me build my academy, and their company name's called Black Belt, and basically they had a process which is a 12-week process, right? So every time you would focus on your goals for your business, you would focus on a 12-week process. And what they figured out, and which is something that we're going to implement into the academy work as well, is a 6-week plan. Because a 6-week plan is actually a tangible plan, right? What they found was a 12-week plan, which is 3 months, you would have a nosedive. And the nosedives would be about in the 6-week period. So that nosedive would actually make you go and crash. And then we'd have all our patterns come up, and then we wouldn't be able to get up the mountain. Right? So I think it's really good to plan for about 6 weeks out. What are you going to do for the 6 weeks to where you want to reach your goals? And then we get to that 6-week period, and then we reassess again.
I really like that. I think I'm a big fan of like smaller steps as well. It seems more tangible to me in a way.
Yeah, it does. And I think we have a little process called Easy Stretch in our academy, which is about doing 2 really easy things and then a stretchy one. So it gives you what the easy could be: booking an appointment to catch up with someone, having a chat with someone about something that you need to work through. So that's an easy. You're just booking an appointment, something that you can do that is going to take you about a minute or 2 to do. And you do 2 easy things, and then you figure out your stretch. So like for you, you're really good with exercise, aren't you? So for someone who's not good at exercise, just doing the gym and working out is a stretch. So you get in and do 10 minutes, a 10-minute workout, not working out every day, a 10-minute workout or a 15-minute workout just to get your body used to doing a workout, right? And then you just do it once in that week.
Yeah. And
Does that make
also
sense?
even just building the habit as well of it. Like when I was learning a bit about habits, we talked about this guy who would go to the gym for 5 minutes every time, and he'd do like 1 rep, and then he'd go home. But he'd do it every day, and then at some stage it became normal for him to just go to the gym, and then he could up his time. And it was very interesting to just think about that. It was just such a small thing. Okay, I just go there, I just stay for 5 minutes, and I go home. But I'm building the habit and actually build it up from there as well, which was great. So it was really easy, but it worked itself up to be more stretchy.
100%. And this is where we get into that sense of being more professional, right? When we've got something that we're sharing with other people, we need to have that more of a plan for people to see that we've got our shit together, haven't we?
Yeah.
Right? But we need to have it something that's there, and that takes time. Like for people who want to build a business, a lot of people put a really good show on, but they've got nothing in the back. And this is where you don't know whether you can trust people anymore at the moment, especially on social media. How many people are actually really helping people right now?
And living that, that's a good question.
Yeah, and then we've got the others who are just startups and they're brilliant. Right? So how do you know you might have hit a gold mine with someone who isn't good? And I think how do you find someone in this day and age? I think one important aspect of picking someone is checking if they're really authentic people rather than showy.
Because the professionalism can just be a show, and then even the preparation can be just a show. They can have all these really nice advertisements and, the marketing looks amazing and flashy, but, what's the person actually like behind that, and what's their stuff that they're sharing or selling actually like? You don't really know. Their marketing could just be very good.
100%. And look, I remember there's a lady, Kath, who used to work with me a while ago. She just started, and at the time she started, I was building a cabinet and there was shit everywhere. And she was working with this lady in Melbourne, or this guy in Melbourne, and she's a perfectionist. She needed, everything looking good for her clients, and everything needed to be special, and everything needed to be in its place. And then she saw me, chaos man, with stuff a little bit everywhere, as you know. Filia, sorry about that. And she asked the guy, "What is it about this guy? Like he's just like people just traipsing into his room, just in and out. He was booked out. He was booked outside of me. I was so booked out, and she just didn't get the fact that there was this guy who didn't have everything in its place. People didn't care because they wanted my magic. And sometimes when you've got try to get everything in place, you're missing one most important puzzle piece: your heart.
Absolutely. And I can actually, now that I'm thinking about that, I can attest to it. Like before I started working here, when I just came to see you or Anya, I would never notice if anything was messy in here. I would be like, I didn't notice it until I started working here. I was like, oh, this is a bit messy. I better tidy that up, because that became part of my responsibility as well, right? Like we all keeping this place clean and tidy and that. But before that, I never noticed, because that wasn't the reason I came here. I didn't come here to, look at how tidy the place is. I came to get help, and I didn't really care. I never noticed anything. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And so, look, guys, when you're wanting to create something in your life, have a good balance. Filia is amazing at getting a plan together and getting things working and making things look magical. The thing is, she's magical.
Thank you.
All right? You just drop your tone. Give me a better thank you than that.
Thank you.
You're amazing at what you do and how you contribute to this world. And when you're a person who makes things feel more fulfilled because you've got an ability to make things more presentable, more able, with the type of person that you are, right? Listeners, did you hear the tone drop? See, the tone drop is actually the reason why she's working with me. Because she's not saying, yeah, I'm friggin' awesome, check me out, I'm so good, buy me, because I know exactly what you need, because I am the person who will fulfill your life and your destiny to the best possible future you can possibly have. She doesn't do that. She actually does her thing and makes things better because she's around.
Thank you.
That was better. Well done. And listeners, please make sure you have a good balance between just showing up and having a good, lovely plan. Because we are sort of planned with our podcast. We have a routine that we run. This is a bit less routine because we're just talking about things. When we were going through all the emotion stuff, we had a process, didn't we?
Yeah, it was kind of like similar, asking similar questions, but also still keeping it open and not controlling the situation too much. I think otherwise, in the beginning, I think I did that a bit more, and then we maybe missed out on some good questions that could have been asked based on just what you said. Yeah. So it's nicer to have like the conversation as well. But yeah, with the emotions, we had the emotion, and you had your worksheet here, which you have the emotional meanings, and you just read through that one sentence again, and then we just based it all on that. So yeah, that was literally all.
Yeah, and I think for everyone who's listening out there, get some help with a plan. Get someone who knows how to do this. I've got people who have. If I didn't have a friend of mine, Linda, get my book out and put the structure in and make it great. Apparently, my book is amazing. I've had so many people say, "Your book is ridiculously good," and I haven't really shared it too much because I'm a little bit like a yeah, it's all right sort of person.
It's okay. It's done now.
Yeah, and I keep getting told to read it because it's so freaking good, right? But if I didn't have someone who had more detail and planning, I put it out there, and we're really lucky this day and age that we have people who can help us to make things better, because the book never would have gone out. It took me 5 years to get that book out, and it wouldn't have come out otherwise.
It didn't take you long to write it, though, did it?
No, 3 days. 3 days was all it took, because there's a process to do a book. We have that in the academy. It's funny, just that one thing in the academy, people charge about $8,000, not $8,000 to $10,000 for our process of how to write a book in the academy. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's just an hour of content that we show you how to do it with a worksheet.
Wow.
Yeah. Just little pieces in here that I've learned along the way of how to make things much more simplified, so then you have a nice process that you can do, so you don't get overwhelmed to get your world and your magic out there into the world. Because look, if you're the person who really wants to help people, you can fall under the sword of prep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Which is basically just a form of procrastination, and a lot of the time, really.
Yeah, it is. So there's got to be a prep and do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got them both together, then you prepare and you do. And as you do those two things together, you actually create a mountain. I was very lucky meeting quite a few people over the journey of life, helping my academy grow. And they just said, just make it happen, and then you can improve it along the way. And now I have you making everything better. And then we're going to probably spend the next 10, 15 years trying to actually put improvements into our frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm just putting a new framework in for responsibility for year 2, because we know we're missing a couple of puzzle pieces in here that I want to put in for year 2 that we're going to build and then make better. And Anya and I have got this big project that we're going to be doing for our second year people next year to improve it.
Mm-hmm.
It had to start somewhere.
Exactly. You were like, that was quite good advice that I heard, was like, you can't start decorating the house before you even build the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in our head we often already are at that stage where we're like, okay, it's all done, I can decorate it now and make it really pretty. But first of all, you need to like pour the concrete and start somewhere. And we have that building being built outside now. We can't say that they're putting any couches or any chairs or desks in there yet, but it's just they're building walls. We're pouring concrete and digging a hole for ages. So
and if they didn't have a good process, and we know people know buildings who haven't had a good process, and builders who don't have good processes, not to buy buildings from particular builders these days, because they have a name for themselves of falling down buildings.
Mm-hmm.
There's some buildings that they have to do some dredging around Canberra with the water that actually leaks in the buildings around Canberra, simply because they haven't been built properly. So we all need to have this really, really good balance. And if you're a person who is naturally like Filia needs a person who's naturally like me. And so we all need people who have unique pieces of magic that we can build something together with. So I don't believe that we need to be everything. I think this is what we get stuck on, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really good at giving people ideas and giving people focus and processes that they can use. I'm nowhere near as good as you at actually making the processes improve and making them better, so then you come along and make the world a better place.
Yeah, and without you bringing in those ideas and being like, hey, we have to get this done, I probably wouldn't get as much done. So
no, that's right. And I throw you stuff now, and you're like, okay, here we go, and then you go into your process mode and make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where life comes in, guys. Don't think you have to build the mountain yourself. Get the right help. We are so good at getting you over the line psychologically. There are people who have absolute amazing things out there, and you might be one of them, and you might have got help from a whole lot of people and you're still stuck, and we get you over the line with all the psychology, all the stuff that's holding you back, and then we've got the processes to help you build the life the way that you want it. The thing is, you've got to be able to reach out to know that you can't do it yourself. I can't. That's why I have someone helping me. Right? The dumbest business owner or dumbest person in the world thinks they have to do it themselves. I was dumb. I'm not dumb anymore. I did everything myself for years. And I didn't grow. I didn't have someone pushing me.
Because there's so many things to do. It's quite hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I remember, there are people who are aspiring to be old me in the academy. I had a business that was flourishing. I was booked out 6 weeks in advance for around about 12, 14 years, something like that. I know how to get a practice working. If anyone wants to know how to get a practice working, I can do it. I've done it. I can show people how to do it. The thing is, I didn't get the help. I really did it injustice to myself. I didn't get the help that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
So I bumbled my way through it and got there. And then 2016 came along. I went and joined a program to help my business grow. And then I was just like, oh my God, I had no idea what was out there because I was hiding in my room.
Mm.
And I've gotten people busy, practitioners. I've got people out of the hidey hole and got them into processes that can help expand their world. But if I didn't jump out into the world and get some help, I never would have known that this world could have existed that I'm in now.
Kind of feels like you have to do it all yourself, right? In a way. But you don't.
No, you don't. And I think where people fall down is they go, I don't trust anyone and it's going to cost money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, anyone who has those two things and they're worried about those two things, don't ever bother having a really successful business. Because if you're worried about spending money on your business or something that you want to create, then there's no point starting because it costs money, right? I spent $6,500 on somebody for a year in February. Best money I ever spent.
Mm-hmm.
Spent $25,000 the year before last, I think. Worst money I could have spent.
Mm-hmm.
Best understanding I could have gotten though, right? And I'm willing to put money into things to know that I'm going to get something out of it. And you've got to be prepared to put that energy in, so then you can get the value out. And yeah, some of the things I've spent money on haven't worked. It doesn't mean I didn't get the value that I needed out of it though.
That's true. And you also got to think about if you did it all yourself, it would take so much time rather than like instead of getting someone else for you to do it. Is it worth it to spend that money because your time is, in business sense, is worth money too.
Yeah.
So if you have to learn it all yourself, it might cost a whole lot more in the end.
Yeah, exactly. And our time's really, really valuable. And if we look at our time as a value system, we've got to actually learn how to value our time and our money and what we choose to do, and be calculated in our decisions and be prepared that it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. Right? That the ones who are willing to get over the line have certain qualities, Filia. They have some sort of plan. So they've got a plan in place, and they've got this real determination. Mm-hmm. And push. And that's what gets you over the line. No system does. The systems work as long as you got the push to drive them. Right?
Yeah.
And you see people in the academy, you can see people who don't put as much effort in, it takes a little bit longer. And then you see the annoying ones who don't put much effort in, they just go 100 miles an hour. Are they annoying?
Yeah, I know.
They annoy me.
It's like at school, right? Like you had those ones that never studied and always got an A, and you're just like, what?
Yeah, that's not fair.
Yeah.
I think people say that about me, is that I can just show up and be aware of human nature and what people do and turn them around and turn their life completely upside down really, really quick if they want it. Mm-hmm. And I think we've got to know that we've got to be prepared to have a plan, put the effort in, show up, and make life the way that we want. And I think you're a really good example of getting things moving in a way to make sure that we have a path. And I'm the person who says, let's look at the path beyond the path. Mm-hmm. I'm that untrodden path. And it's like paving the way through the trees and making one at the moment. Yeah. And if I just did that, I'd look back and say, oh geez, I've just cut a whole bunch of really good trees down, but there's nothing much being built along the, from behind. So we all need this, guys.
Yeah. So we need to be present enough to build the systems that will get us to where we want to go, but also, also not have no direction at all. So you need direction, but if you just somewhere with the fairies, then you won't get anywhere as well.
Yeah, we can't be in dreamland. So what's one thing, Filia, that you would suggest for people that they could do if they're struggling with, creating a plan or creating improvement? Like what's one thing that you think is that the listeners could take from what you do so naturally that you don't even think about because you're annoyingly good at stuff, but I'm not?
I think little steps. Mm-hmm. I think that was always it's always one of my biggest thing that makes me fall over is just looking too much at all the end result and the big. So it's like looking at the process rather than the result. That's the thing, and just taking little steps. Just being okay with, I don't need to sprint the whole marathon. I can just, jog it, because in the end you're going to have to do the marathon. If you're just sprinting it, you won't get to the end. And then I think just reminding yourself that you're not going to perform the same way every day as well. I think oftentimes that's another thing. We have all these expectations in ourselves, but every day is a bit different. There's always different things going on in your life, and you might be really had no sleep one night and be really tired, and then you expect yourself to perform the same way as when you had like a really good amount of sleep, super healthy breakfast, felt super energized and motivated. So I think it's just about being a bit kinder to yourself and getting help, like what we talked about, like without having someone like you as well. I think I would still just be like in that dead end road, like trying to get through that wall, but it doesn't really work.
Hey, do you think we could give these guys our easy stretch little planner?
Yeah, for sure. I can put that in the show notes.
Yeah, that could be something that we could give if you wanted to download that. I think that would be a little good thing that you could have a look at. It's really simple though, guys. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that you can't not screw up. Yeah, it's really simple to do, isn't it?
Yep.
It just means you got to do it. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You can do that.
Well, thanks, Filia, for giving us your insights around, having a plan and making things better.
Thank you so much for talking to me.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate you, and we really appreciate your time, because time is so valuable. What we'd love you guys to do, if you like this podcast, if you could share it with your friends, and also our website address for the podcast is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademypodcast.com. Our website is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademy.com. We have a free Facebook group called Wellness Leadership Evolution, so search for that. I'd love it if you could add me as a friend on Facebook. I don't buy it, so add me as a friend, and if you want some help and you would really like some support from us in the Academy, jump in. We have a process. You can do a break-in call to connect in with us. We do small courses. We have lots of things that we share. So we'd love the opportunity to give you a chance to change your life and turn it into a free one. You are one transformation away from change. Come and catch up.